Hey everybody, welcome to Fitless, episode number 5. I'm John D'Ambrosio. I am here with my co-host Blain Dusing, and
What is going on?
today we're going to talk about some interesting gym stories we have because we've both been training for quite a long time and we've seen some interesting things, come across some kind of weird practices, dangerous practices, but there's a lot of humor in that and a lot of learning to be had. So we're just going to discuss some of the biggest things that stick out in our mind and go from there. So Blaine, you've not only trained people, but obviously you've been in gyms training. Just recently when you had your home gym revamped, you were out at public gyms. So you must have seen probably a lot of things going on that were probably pretty humorous.
Yeah, I unfortunately had to go back into the belly of the beast for about 5 months, and there's never a shortage of entertainment value. I swear to God, I don't know where people get what they get. I don't know if it's off of the internet or magazines or what, but just the most nonsensical things. I'm trying to find in my head like the top three things that I've seen. I think I don't know if anything can beat this. I'll start right out of the gate with this. I saw a guy with dumbbells holding them like this on a Bosu ball where you have to balance, and he would get down in a full squat position, literally jump off the Bosu ball, land back with 2 feet, go down in a bottom position squat, and then rapid fire the dumbbells in the bottom position squat, then hold them again, jump off of the Bosu ball. And I'm like, dude, one wrong move and you have a hospital visit. Like, that's not
Yeah.
even close. Like, you've got dumbbells. If you slip and one of them hits your temple or something, there's just, and I was just watching in awe, and I was trying to see if anybody else was seeing it, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can top that one. The Bosu ball jumping off into the squat position and rapid firing dumbbells above his head. I don't even know what that was supposed to be accomplishing.
See, now I love to hear about stuff like this because it points out a lot. So first off, I need to ask, was this guy in good shape? Because some of the things that I'm going to talk about, the people were in phenomenal shape. So people will then misconstrue if he's in great shape, what he's doing or she's doing must work. So first I need to ask, was this someone who was in really good or pretty decent shape, or was it someone who was obviously trying something they saw on social media to get into shape?
No, he was. I mean, I think you already know the answer to that question because to be able to jump off and on of a Bosu ball and doing the rapid fire in the squat position, no, he was in good shape already. I mean, not overly muscular. He was very lean, very cut. Looked like, if you were walking around a gym, one of those people that would know what he was doing. So yeah, he was in very good shape. I don't think anybody out of shape could have even attempted what he was doing on that Bosu ball with the dumbbells.
Okay, so now let's play devil's advocate here. So if you needed to be in good shape to do this, why wouldn't you advocate that for others? I mean, you just said this guy was in good shape. He couldn't do what he was doing unless he was in good shape. So what was actually wrong with his method?
Maybe I'm incorrect, man. I don't know. Basically, out of everything that I've learned over the course of time and talking to what I consider to be the best in this business, just being slow and controlled and reducing your risk of injury to zero is the name of the game. But maybe in his defense, he learned from a different guy that was in shape in the gym. And now that we say this, I don't think I've ever told this story on this podcast or to you in person, but I remember, I think I was probably in college, 20, 21 years old, and there was some big guy at the gym I was working out at in between classes and stuff like that. And I would ask him, and he told me, you've got to blitz and bomb everything for at least 1 hour. And I'm like, well, what do you do? He's like, I do chest, shoulders, and tries on Monday, back and bis on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, then again chest, shoulders, and tries on Thursday, back and bis on Friday, legs again on Saturday, Sunday off. And I would literally go and work out with this guy, and we would do chest for an hour, shoulders for an hour, and triceps for an hour for a 3-hour workout on
Wow.
Monday. And if we didn't, it didn't matter how many sets, we just got to finish that hour. It doesn't matter if you're doing, we would just haphazardly put stuff together. Incline, decline, flat bench, dumbbell bench, chest flies, pec deck. You got to kill the hour, dude. It's got to be an hour. And I didn't even critically think about that. Oh, he's in shape, so he must know. And
Right.
I
So
can't
how
believe
did
I
your
did
body
that.
respond to that? So, I mean, obviously for him it worked because he was in the shape he was. And some people can do anything. They could walk past the gym and build muscle, or they could massively overtrain due to, some sort of endogenous steroids or incredibly superior genetics and still benefit from that. You have great genetics, but how did that affect you considering what you're doing now is the polar opposite?
I mean, back then, if I was 20 to 23 years old, I probably bounced back from anything. I could do anything at that age and just have, my testosterone levels were probably through the roof. But to your points about steroids, I had absolutely no idea. Like, I had heard of them, but I had done zero research. But now in my head, viewing this guy the way he looked to be like in his 40s, to be able to do that and to have the type of musculature that he did, and it wasn't just the genetic phenotype to have good muscles. I mean, he had the synthetic veins that pop out when you're on large amounts of anabolics. When guys are like, oh, I'm not on anabolics. Okay, well, when you have garter snake veins coming through your neck, doing the wiggle through your chest that are popping out your bicep, you're like, okay, that's hard to get without synthetics pumping through your body. So you
So,
can only, now that I'm much older and you put me in a room of 100 guys, I could tell you the 10 that are using just by looking at them. But back then when I was 20, I had absolutely no idea, man. We thought, back then creatine was just coming out. We thought creatine was like a form of a steroid, We're like, oh, dude,
right.
you're on creatine, bro. Okay, like but yeah, man, 3 hours of chest, shoulders, and triceps, 2 hours of back and biceps, an hour of legs on Wednesday. We would do, God, what was that, 10 hours a week in the gym
Wow. That's insane.
to look zero different, nothing
Right.
transpired.
And that's funny because going back to your Bosa Bull story, I had one very similar to that. This guy was in great shape. He was again one of the in better shape guys at the gym. He was probably in his mid 30s, but he was on the Bosa Bull also, one leg bent over doing alternate dumbbell rows on that. And then he would go from that to something else that was ridiculous, to something else that was ridiculous, and then back. But he had people actually watching him and were wowed because he was in such good shape doing this and then asking him in between sets. And I could kind of overhear. I mean, they wanted to know what he was doing and how because they wanted to emulate that. And I was just rolling my eyes because again, this guy, I don't know if he was on anything or not. He may have just been genetically gifted, but doing something so again overtly dangerous. I mean, standing on a Boso ball on one foot while you're doing bent over rows. I mean, what stress are you putting on your ankle, your knee, and you think, well, I'm strengthening those muscles. That's the whole purpose, stabilization. But you're really not. You're putting your body at such a risk of injury that people miss out on it, and then they try to do this on their own, and then yeah, they're in the friggin' hospital.
Yeah, I mean, he very well like could have had a genetic phenotype, or maybe he's just an athletic guy that could have pulled those moves off. But unfortunately, the majority of the population sees that, and they think they can emulate it, and they're going to end up with an injury. The same thing goes for predominantly most of my clients are elderly, but they'll every once in a while they'll catch somebody, the genetic top 1% anomaly that can still be running long distance in their 60s, 70s, or 80s. And maybe there is somebody that's just genetically modified to do that. The majority of people are going to end up with a knee and hip replacement, if not all. But
Right,
they'll see that one guy out there and they think, oh, he looks that way because he runs. And I'm like, no, no,
right,
no. He runs because he was already that way. But they don't.
absolutely.
But the majority of people would just mistake his look for the running. They go out and run, and a year later they're getting hips and knees replaced, going, oh, I don't look anything like that guy, but he's still out there. Well, maybe he was just genetically modified to be a runner.
Right. And I love what you talked about because you get people who say, I'm going to take up swimming because I want a swimmer's body. Or I want to take up Pilates. I want to take up bar method because I want those long muscles. And you can't change those muscles. So you look at swimmers. If you ever go to a swimming competition, because my sister was big into swimming when she was younger, so we would go to the competitions. The earlier you are, the less talented you are. The bodies are all totally different. You have some kids who are slightly obese, some kids who are really skinny, some kids who are short, some are tall, and there's a wide variety. But as you got higher and higher into the competition, the better and better swimmers, they all had extremely similar bodies to the point with the bathing cap on, you couldn't really tell them apart. And that wasn't because swimming gave them those bodies. It was because those bodies excelled at swimming, and that's why they ended up where they did. So people think you could change muscle bellies, you could change the way your muscles look based on somebody else's appearance, But you look at, people who know Franco Columbu and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They both trained together. Franco had more of a powerlifting foundation, but they trained together all the time. Franco had very short muscle bellies. His biceps looked nothing like Arnold's, but if training the way Arnold did would have given him Arnold-sized muscles and Arnold-shaped muscles, he should have had it. He did not. He was very stocky and compact, where Arnold was very long-limbed and long muscle-bellied. It's just kind of people, again, equate with the trainer looks this way or the sport looks this way, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to play basketball because I want to be taller. It doesn't work that way.
No, but then like the complete opposite portion of that is, when I'll have new clients and they'll think that I work out every single day, or the gym's in your house, you got to be doing this, you got to be killing this, and then when I wholeheartedly tell them I work out for less than 30 minutes a week, that's almost the buy-in, because then they're almost intrigued. They're like, wait, what? And it's like, I have no reason to lie to you. I'm not sneaking in more sets. I train other people on this equipment 100 times more than I would ever actually use it myself. And it just takes certain people. Some people buy in. I've had this conversation with a lot of people this week about why doesn't everyone do this? Or how do I convince my brother, my sister, my relative, my coworker to do this when they're doing all this other crap? And I mean, I don't mean to sound pessimistic. I just say don't even try. Until they feel it themselves, or unless they want to show up with a trainer, for them to read an article or watch something on my page and tell you that they're doing it, no, they're not. Like, I had one of my clients tell me that, I think it was Monday, 8 a.m. client, Linda. She's like, oh, my sister, she looked up what we were doing. She's totally doing it. I said, no, she's not. Like, what do you mean? You're like, she thinks she's doing it. I thought I was doing it after I read a few Darden books and I knew everything. Until you get with a trained professional and they push you through those last 3 reps, you're not doing it, man. I don't think that maybe some people can. I highly doubt it without a skilled instructor, at least in the beginning. Now I can do it myself, but it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of people overlook. And I think that's maybe where the high volume, high frequency has a benefit, because a lot of people can't, without a trainer, at least initially, generate the amount of force and engage those muscles completely the way they need to, because psychologically and even their nervous system isn't trained. So they're pushing and it's like it gets hard or it starts to hurt and they crap out. They're like, I'm done. And then they think, well, I did it. Well, you didn't. You didn't get to the point where you've stimulated the muscle growth to the degree that this sort of training methodology can actually work at. So maybe those people need to do, a higher volume because they never actually reach the failure. Or maybe after the 5th set, they're really struggling. It's okay. They've hit failure then. They've spent way more time, used way more resources, but until they have somebody actually training them properly to teach them how to use their muscles to the degree and capacity they need to get to true failure or very close to it, they may not have that ability themselves, which is why a trainer is so, so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I've got clients that I've had for years that will go on vacation and say, hey, when I'm by myself, should I do a 2nd or 3rd set because I can't get to the point where you get me? And I say, by all means, then do a 2nd or 3rd set. Is it ideal? No. Is it going to hurt anything? No. I mean, but some people can't psychologically get there, and it's not their fault. I mean, in 2026, 70% of the population is morbidly obese. Mm-hmm. Most people avoid any and all discomfort at all costs. So to try to get them to come in here and in a few sessions push through that barrier of the worst pain you're ever going to put yourself in, it's difficult to get people there. So if they can't get there, by all means, do a 2nd set, do a 3rd set. If you can't get there, then get the cumulative fatigue. Is it going to hurt anything? Probably not. Is it going to do that much more? Probably not. It might be a wash. But if you can't get there, and on a scale of 1 to 10, you can bring yourself to a 7, do 2 or 3 sets, whatever.
Exactly. And to your point about, excruciating pain, I don't want people to think that's the way it is every workout. Every workout, once you get used to this sort of training, they're not comfortable. It's not like, ooh, I can't wait to do the leg press and hit true failure on it. But I think the body adapts to that pain level and it just becomes uncomfortable and you're pushing as hard as you can and you can't get it to move and it's not happening. But I no longer feel that, oh my gosh, I am going to explode from the pain. That has long since passed. And again, I think the body just kind of adapts to that, which is a good thing in my opinion.
No, you're wholeheartedly correct. I should have alluded to that too. But yeah, now when I train, it's uncomfortable, but my body's so used to it and it knows what the target is. But back when I was first starting out and Dr. Ellington Darden put me through my first real workout in his home, like I thought I was going to
Hmm.
puke and die. And I thought that that's the way they all were. Now I can work out with Doug Simmons or Jay or Drew. I can have the best in this business murder me, and we're fine, and I go to lunch afterwards. Like when I was done with Darden, like I went home and crawled into a bed. Like I was murdered because my body hadn't ever experienced that systemic shock. But once it
Hmm.
does, yes, your body does adapt to it. And it's not as terrible as we're making it out to be. You just kind of got to gradually through the first 4 to 8 sessions gruel through that. And then once you become used to it and you know what the target is to hit, yes, your body does adapt. So I should have alluded to that.
One going back to funny gym stories. This was my brother and I used to go to this gym. It was called World of Fitness. It has since closed, but it was a real musclehead gym. Lots of steroid use, which we didn't know at the time. In hindsight, it was pretty obvious. But there was a guy training there, and I think his name was Eric. I can't remember, but he was one of the bigger guys at the gym, and we were just doing whatever we were doing. And there weren't really many machines at the gym. It was all benches and dumbbells. There was a pull-down machine. I think that was it. And he was doing a bench, and I think he had 4 plates on each side or 5 plates on it. It was a lot of weight. And in the middle of what we were doing, we kind of heard a noise and we looked over, and there he was, like pinned under the weight. Nobody else there near him. So we ran over and we each grabbed a side. Now, we're probably 15, 16 years old. We can't lift, even on one on each side, this massive weight off of him and get it onto the racks. So we're kind of rolling it across his chest. Then it's on his face, and his face is being distorted and smashed. And then finally we get it to the point where we get it off of him. And we thought he'd be mad because we just merely crushed his head, but he was like, "Oh, you guys saved my life, thank you." And every time we saw him after at the gym, he's like, "Those are the guys that saved my life." And we still joke about that, but that was it was a scary but really funny experience. We laughed hysterically after we left the gym. But I mean, it's great to have machines where you're not going to crush yourself. And now they have apparatus for the benches. If you're smart and you're training alone, you're going to have those racks there. So if you fail, you don't crush yourself if you don't have a spotter. But that was something that stood out in my head.
No, it's funny. Yeah, and to your point, now that I'm older, like I'm predominantly machines. I think the only two exercises I use weights for are the standing barbell curl and the lateral raise with dumbbells. Everything else I have machines. I mean, it stimulates the musculature the same. It keeps you in a safer predicament. Anybody that's saying one is better than the other, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like machines are so much more advantageous in my opinion as far as preventing injury. When you get
Hmm.
tired, you just set it down. If you're tired at the bottom of a squat or if you're tired at the bottom of a barbell bench and you can't get out of that and you just deal with the instance that you just alluded to, it can get very, very dangerous. So don't think one is better than the other. I don't think your muscles are capable of cognitive thought. They don't know if you're on a bench press or a chest press. Just
Right.
stay safe and fatigue the intended musculature properly.
Yeah, exactly. And to the point about the leg press versus the squat, I remember, in my years in CrossFit, there would be times where we would squat. And you didn't really spot somebody when they were squatting. They take it off the rack and they go, and then they teach you to dump it if you couldn't get out of that. And that was terrifying to me to just kind of roll, get into a position where you're struggling to even be upright. The weight is coming down on you, and you have to then get it off of your back, hoping it doesn't fall and break an ankle or something like that. But that was a safety valve on squats in CrossFit was dump the
No.
weight.
Like I said, I got a good leg press. I'm 6'5". I'm not squatting anything ever again. Never. That's like a two-story building to me, man. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other funny stories. One, this is not so much a funny story; it's more of a hindsight story. So in high school, I would train. They had the old Universal gym, so it was like a square, I guess. There were four different stations on it,
Yeah.
and you'd go. So I would train in there sometimes in the morning, and I'd have some friends would go. And there was this one guy. He was always very skinny. He was lean, but he couldn't put on muscle mass. And we were good friends, and I would try to train him, and it was high intensity at the time. I had Mike Mensner's books, those little booklets, and I would put him through the workouts, and he would be sweating. He would do great, but he didn't seem to be able to put on mass. High school ended. I ended up running into him a couple years later, and he was working out at this gym. He was actually working at the gym, Vince's gym. So Vince's gym was, again, one of those iron gyms. It was run by this guy named Vince, who actually had a short foray into professional wrestling as Vince the Viking Prince. But there was a lot of steroids going there. And when I saw this guy, my friend, he had put on probably 60 to 80 pounds of muscle. Unbelievable. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just working out here at the gym. So I said, well, could you train me a little bit? He said, absolutely. So, everything flipped. I went from training him to he went to training me. And, when I hit a sticking point, he's like, you just need a shot in the ass of, I said, well, I don't, what is it? Steroids? Like, oh, no, no, no. It's just B12. You just need to get, I'll just give you this shot and you'll just get this regularly and you'll see, you'll start putting on mass. Everything will change. I'm like, I'll pass on that. And I never went with it. Now, I don't know if it was really a B12 shot to give me a temporary energy boost or if it was some sort of anabolic. I have no idea. But the change in him from high school to a few years later, putting on all that mass was just, in my guess, and I could be wrong, but I would guess there was probably some sort of anabolic involved.
He probably had copious amounts of anabolics involved, put on 60 to 80 pounds. I don't think it was the B12, John.
No, I don't
it
think
was
so
the
either.
B12. I think he was probably running some tests, some D-ball, yeah, Winstrol, all of it, man. He probably had a whole bunch of 5 to 6 compounds going at the same time.
Insane. But again, back then we didn't know. That first gym I went to, there was a kid there, and I remember the guy who trained him owned the gym, and he's like, look at this kid. It was a 13-year-old kid, shaved head, which nobody had a shaved head back in the 70s, 80s, Telly Savalas, shaved head, and he's had 16-inch arms. The guy measured, he's like, look, he's got 6, and he measured them right in front of me. He's like, he's only 13. This kid's got potential. And I'm thinking, holy mackerel, how does this 13-year-old kid look like a bodybuilder already? And now I'm like, I wonder if they were pumping him up with steroids back at 13. It's crazy.
Could be, or he could just have insane genetics. I don't know.
It's possible.
Culmination of both, good genetics and anabolics, man. You never know, and they won't tell you the truth anyway. So
no, that's obviously the truth. So what other kind of funny things have you seen at the gym that stood out?
I think I told you this one. It was funny that my training partner and I, Rich, like with a high intensity training routine, you typically go like small or biggest muscle groups to smallest. So you're going to do your chest, your back, your legs, and then you're going to hit your laterals, your biceps, your triceps. Mm-hmm. So we saw these 2 or 3 guys just doing endless amounts of tricep press downs, and I think we had finished 4 or 5 exercises. And these kids are just repping out the tricep press down all day long. And then they transitioned to an overhead press. And I leaned over to Rick. I said, whatever they're going to try to push isn't going to move. This is going to be hilarious. And he's like, let's watch this for a second, And so, I'm sure most of the people here understand I'm just coincidentally sitting in an overhead press. If this is light enough, just to show you, like when you push up on these, like your tricep is stabilizing. Like I can feel my tricep just holding 25 pounds. It's stabilizing this entire range of motion. It's a very tricep dominant. So when those kids got on and put on whatever weight they wanted to put on, it wouldn't budge, and they were just looking at themselves perplexed. And I saw them going down the rack lighter and lighter and lighter, and they're like, why won't it move today? And we didn't have the heart to go over there and tell them that they just pre-exhausted the entire musculature that's supporting the overhead press is your triceps. So, like on my B routine, I don't even perform any direct tricep work because I'm doing an overhead press and a dip. Your triceps are smoked after 2 of those compound movements, but young kids won't realize that, and they'll try to do 100 sets of triceps and then go to a dip or an overhead press, and nothing budges because you fatigue the supporting musculature. But I thought that was funny just because we were older, and we're not going to go tell a bunch. I don't know. They look like they were 18, 19 years old, but they just look so perplexed as to why they couldn't move the overhead press machine.
And that's something important that I think a lot of people miss is there's overlap when you're training muscles. So you think, I'm going to go in and just have a bicep day. Well, you might do great on your bicep day, but if you're going to train back and biceps and you're doing a seated row or you're doing a pull down and then, well, my biceps got weaker, what's going on? Because you're using the biceps in those other exercises, just like you're using the triceps in the overhead press. And people miss that and end up overtraining muscles. Like anterior delts, I think, are probably the most overtrained muscle there is because they'll do military presses, they'll do bent presses, they'll do incline presses, they'll do front raises, and everything involves the anterior deltoid. And meanwhile, they're neglecting the rear delt. They may get it if they do a seated row or something like that. And then it ends up causing shoulders forward, it causes impingement syndromes, and they just don't understand the the way the anatomy works, where you could think you're targeting a muscle, but there are auxiliary muscles that kick in and do a lot of work and get affected.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. It took me a long time to back off and get to the routine I'm at now. And the fact that I just do 6 and 6 twice a week, and sometimes, I might go down to once a week here and there just if I need extra recovery, but there's so much overlap. Like the old me, overhead press and dip, I would still do a tricep press down or a lying tricep extension into a closed grip bench press. I negate all of that now, and my arms have not shrunk one bit. I've not lost a pound of muscle. It's like the less and less and less I do, I still look and feel just as big and just as strong, and my numbers still go up. But yeah, I stopped, I used to do like a pec deck before or after a chest press. I used to throw extra stuff at me thinking, yeah, it's still just 20 minutes. I've negated all of that stuff, man. My routines now are just one set of the utmost simplicity for one chest press, that's it. Pull down, that's it. Leg press, that's it. Used to be chest press plus a pec deck plus, anything else to cook the chest. It used to be a pull down plus a time static contraction. I'd throw other stuff at myself. Now I've taken all of that out and nothing has changed and my numbers still continue to go up, if not stay the same. And I'm still 220 solid pounds doing less and less and less. It's wild.
It is, and that just shows that's really all you need if you do it right. One last interesting story because we're running low on time. This I saw at the gym not that long ago. There was an elderly gentleman there, and he was on machines, and he was doing multiple sets. But he would grab whatever, if it was the overhead press machine. His range of motion was just really the top 3 inches, and then he would put it down. And then bench would be the same thing, and then curl would just be at the top, and pull down would be just he would only pull down like 3 or 4 inches. And I don't know if this is some sort of internet kind of trendy thing. I remember. I forget who did it. John Little and somebody else. They had a bunch of books together, and one was like power rep training, where you only did a certain range of motion because it transferred over, and you used a lot of weight. He wasn't using a lot of weight. He was doing a lot of reps, multiple sets. Is this something you've seen? Is this some sort of trend, or is this a guy who was just sadly misinformed and working out?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen people put way too many plates on a leg press and only do the top portion. I could probably put a truck ton of weight on this thing, and yet once you get past the bottom portion, yeah, you're just repping the top. The fully loaded position's coming out of the bottom turn. That's the hardest in my opinion. So, I don't know. I think it's just people trying to cheat weight up rather than lifting it appropriately. I don't know. I've never done quarter reps of anything. I don't know. Was J reps a thing when you were doing like 7 reps of the bottom portion, 7 reps of the mid range, 7 reps of the
Yeah,
top
you
range?
started with the easiest range first, so every
Yeah.
exercise was different.
I've never tried any of that on myself. I could be
Okay.
wholeheartedly wrong. It just seems so nonsensical to me that I'm not even attempting that. And I feel like I've tried everything. I wouldn't even do the bottom portion of a range of a bicep curl. What's the point? To just curl a quarter of the way in the easiest position rather than, I've done
Right.
time static contractions, taking a heavier weight, get the contraction, lock it in, and just hold that. That I find meaningful. But to just take a lower weight just to get the bottom portion, I've never tried that. It just seemed really nonsensical to me.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was called Power Reps. I can't remember the other guy, but I remember that was the first time I really injured myself. I can't remember if it was a squat or a deadlift in a rack, and you loaded up the weight and you only did like the very top portion. And I think it was a deadlift, and I remember doing it, and I had a bunch of weight on there, and my back just went. And I was probably 19, 20 years old, and it took me like 3 months before I could actually function normally again. It was
Yeah,
not
it's
pleasant,
normal.
and then I realized in hindsight how stupid that was to do. But you read it, and you think, oh, it sounds good. The science they're putting in the book sounds amazing. Let me give this a shot. You think there's a silver bullet, and yeah, it was a silver bullet, all right, right in the back.
No, yeah, I think I've heard, and I could be wrong. I know the J reps were a thing. I don't know if this is the same thing. So if anybody who watches this podcast wants to leave in the comment section, I don't know if that's the same thing as whatever people are arguing about right now that are called lengthened partials.
Okay, yeah, training in the
I've
stretch
seen I've
position.
seen a lot of people arguing about lengthened partials. I know Jay Vincent did a video debunking it. I know Dr. McGuff did a video. I think it was called like lengthened partials for bozos or something like that. So he was highly against it. But again, not that anyone's right or wrong. I don't know. I've never tried it myself. It just seems very nonsensical to me. I don't know if the lengthened partials are the same as J reps or the same as those quarter reps, or they're completely separate. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think there are three distinct ways of training. And again, people are going, oh, this is the latest science, shows that training in the stretch position elicits more muscle fibers and more growth in my more hypertrophy. And I think there's some truth to that. But again, if you take it in a different direction, you're going to then injure yourself because you're putting a muscle in its most susceptible position. The bottom of the bicep curl, you see the videos of people doing preacher curls and then the bicep tendon ruptures. They're at the
No.
bottom. That's a stretch position. That's the weakest point. If you're hitting that with a massive amount of weight, at the weakened point thinking, oh, I'm going to get massive hypertrophy. I mean, there may be slightly greater hypertrophy potential there, but there's also a larger injury potential, and you have to weigh that trade-off.
Yep. And, well, I don't. I'm not weighing it off, but other people have to.
Exactly. Well, we are over our 30-minute time, so any closing remarks? This flew.
Oh man, this is always fun. I like doing this once a week. Sorry I couldn't get with you yesterday, but we were tied up with some neighbors and we knocked it out today. So, like I said, it's nice that people are asking about it. Hopefully
Yeah.
we're helping some people out there.
I think so too. So I will do my best to get this together and out so we have not a Friday release, but a Thursday release because, like you said, people are asking. So that's exciting. I didn't expect that.
Neither did I. Awesome. Glad we're
All
making a
right.
difference. So, yeah, have a good day and we'll see you next week, man.
All right. Sounds good.